The Truman Show is a film starring Jim Carrey which was made in 1998 and directed by Peter Weir. The film was a financial and critical success, bringing in such awards as Golden Globes, British Academy Film Awards and the Saturn Award.
Good morning! Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening and good night.
This film is about the life of a man, Truman, who is put in a reality TV show, but he doesn't know it. So this film, he's in a constructed world in which he is broadcasted every hour of every day to billions of people across the globe. But after a while, Truman starts to become suspicious of his life, and then he starts to disrupt the world he lives in, and he tries getting away from the world so that he can get into the real world and start a real life. The film is put together in a way that a real reality secret TV show would be. So they'd use secret cameras. For example, they'd put in a button camera to film Truman, or they'd put in a ring camera, which is one of the deleted scenes, or they'd film him through a mirror, and this is done so he doesn't know it. This film has one specific genre which is known as comedy drama, or dramedy. This genre, it has to be funny yet dramatic. This is also shown in another film, for example Bruce Almighty, which is also starring Jim Carrey. Dramedy is shown through the scene being spontaneous because Truman realises that he might be being watched, and so he's having quite a traumatic time, and so he starts trying to disrupt the world to see how it will react, and he's obviously being spontaneous.
Somebody help me! I'm being spontaneous!
So obviously it's quite dramatic for the character. However, because he's acting so outrageously random, the audience find it very comedic, and it brings off a humorous effect. There's a certain shot that both The Truman Show and Bruce Almighty use to show freedom and God's sort of like presence, and this shot is the panning shot. This shot is used in Bruce Almighty when he just discovers his powers and he begins to walk on water, but it also is used in The Truman Show where he gets to the edge of the constructed area he's living in, and he's walking along to find the exit, and obviously the producer of the show is speaking down to him in a godlike sort of way from the sun, with the clouds being parted.
Truman, you can speak. I can hear you.
Because in both shots they're walking in water, it also represents the godly metaphor of them being free, because well, God is free, and they're able, if they've got the same powers as God, then they're able to do what they like and get away from reality, I guess. Or in this case, from the opposite of reality, and Truman trying to move into a real reality, because obviously he's in a constructed world. The iconography in this film mainly is all relatable. For example, the wife, her costume and her physical appearance is representative of the American dream, as in she'll wear the classic apron, and she'll have the classic blonde hair, and she'll look quite beautiful, and that is sort of what is seen as the stereotypical American wife. Another one is when he buys the magazine off the newsstand every day. The magazine is a sign of freedom to the and like a doorway to the outside world, because the lover he meets earlier on in his life, Sylvia, she has parts of her face within those magazines, and that's the only place where the producers don't know what he's doing down in his basement with his trunk, because that's his secretive thing, his way of connecting to the outside world, and her way of connecting into his world without the producers knowing about it. My final point on iconography is about the island, and about how it represents both freedom and isolation, because the island is meant to be representative of the perfect place to live in within the American dream. Also, again, referring back to the American dream from the wife. It shows freedom because in America, the American dream means that you can be free to do what you want as you like. However, the isolation comes through when you realise that Truman is closed in on this constructed world, you could say, and he's not allowed out. So it's the complete different opposite. So it denotes it connotes freedom, but even deeper it connotes the isolation that Truman is in. Within the dramedy genre, they will always have a very energetic character in the film, starring as the main character, in this case Jim Carrey. They would play a very over-the-top role without realising that they're humorous. So they'd be very dramatic. So, for example, I don't know. They would play a very over-the-top role without realising they're funny, yet the audience know that it's humorous. Jim Carrey plays this role a lot, again in Bruce Almighty and in this film The Truman Show. And it's almost like everything is against him within this. So, not necessarily as much as Bruce Almighty, everything's against him in The Truman Show, but everything is revolving around him and he is being controlled by what everyone else is doing. There's a really strong similarity between these type of characters. For example, the characters that Jim Carrey would play in both films are very similar because they have very similar facial expressions, body language, etc, etc. Moving away from the genre theory of The Truman Show and over to this semiotics, the town of Sea Haven usually has constant sunshine. This denotes the good weather, obviously, but it connotes the happiness and warmth of the location the producers are trying to give it so that Truman will stay there and he won't want to go anywhere else. However, when there is rain, it just denotes the bad weather, but it connotes usually death. For example, the rain, when Truman is a boy, his father dies in the rain, and he's had a fear of the sea ever since, but then he goes out to sea to try and escape, and the rain comes. This is a foreshadowing of what is going to happen to Truman. So the producers attempt to kill him, but then he manages to stick through it, and it goes back to sunshine, and it shows more happiness because he's actually getting away from the place. The trunk where Truman keeps all his childhood possessions and also the magazine cutouts of Sylvia's face denotes just simply a trunk of his possessions, but it connotes the freedom that he has away from the producers, as I said earlier. As I said earlier, the wife denotes, obviously, Truman's wife, yet it connotes a sort of symbolism of the American dream, as in it's stereotypical because she's beautiful, she's blonde, the clothing she wears, so it's just all stuff that links in with the American dream theme. The town of Sea Haven obviously just denotes his home, however it connotes the perfect sort of location for the American dream. So always sunny, nice houses, not too far away but not too close to the city, nice beach, sort of the perfect holiday location. So it's sort of a place that you wouldn't want to leave from. The island just simply denotes again Truman's home, however it connotes the isolation of Truman, not only because he's confined within that island because it's just a man-made island which is constructed around Truman because the show's obviously about him, but also because the sea surrounding it is Truman's fear. So it shows that even if he did go across the sea and try to get out, he wouldn't because of the domed wall, but he wouldn't even try because he's got the fear of the sea, so it just emphasises the isolation that he's in. Moving from the island to the sea denotes the sea but it connotes the massive separation he has between him and actual reality, because it's, to him, it's such a vast place, and he has such a big fear of it that he can't even go out 5 meters out to sea, because obviously his father died there, and it always brings flashbacks back to him about his father dying. I would say that the overall deeper meaning of the Truman Show is that the government is always watching and keeping surveillance on society, and always inputting situations as experiments on society to see how they react, just as I believe they do in the real modern era.